So somebody that's very, very respected asked me to do his show 2 weeks ago, and I said, why not? And to me, it's very big because he's the biggest there is, I guess, in that world by far. Somebody said the biggest beyond anybody in a long time. And his name is Joe Rogan, and he's never done this before. And it just came over the wires that Joe Rogan just endorsed me. Is that good? Thank you, Joe. That's so nice. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that stuff.
Amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is insane. I don't know if he's ever endorsed anybody before. And he went from not wanting Trump on his show ever, refusing, to having him on and then changing his mind. I believe that Elon Musk was the critical linchpin to making all that happening. And then Elon Musk was on a show today and basically said this country's over if Trump loses. And I think he's right. I think Joe Rogan believed what he said, and I think that finished him off to say, I'm in. You know what else? Oh, gosh, he also attacked Kamala tonight. Joe Rogan did. And he retweeted Tim Young. We follow each other. Tim's a comedian here in DFW. And he wrote, anybody notice how Kamala could fly in and spend hours to do SNL, but couldn't fly in to do Joe Rogan's podcasts? Joe Rogan retweeted him, or his official podcast retweeted him and said, choke artist, Kamala Harris. And that's exactly right. That's why she wouldn't do it. And in fact, we're going to get to the Muslim influencer who did an interview with Kamala, but it was so bad and so controlled and scripted, and she banned many questions that he was going to ask her, that he said he refused to air the interview. And that's insane, isn't it? Isn't that insane? Now, but I'm going to put this out there. We're going to see a solid win tomorrow night. We're going to see a small landslide, and that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see an electoral college vote. He's going to win Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and he's also going to win Pennsylvania. And I don't know the exact count with that, plus the states he always wins, but I believe he's going to have 300 or more electoral votes and a solid win by tomorrow night, midnight, or 3, 4, 5 in the morning, or the first thing, Wednesday morning, before you and I go back on the radio together. But right now I'm asking you two questions. Do you trust, my first question is, who do you think will win this election? Who will win this election and why? The other one is, do you think enough people out there are going to hold their nose and vote for a man they can't stand only because of the results he brings about inflation and the economy, or are his unfavorables so bad most fence sitters are going to choose to vote for Kamala instead? I just think you're going to look at a bad loss by her tomorrow night. She's going to lose badly. Trump just tweeted out this: an exhausted, dejected Kamala Harris departs Pittsburgh after a speech that lasted 9 minutes and 24 seconds. It says, Trump, this is from the Trump War Room. President Trump spoke in Pittsburgh for nearly 2 hours. The two are not the same. That is exactly right. And that's why I'm going to retweet that. I thought it was great. By the way, you're going to see something else. Not Ivanka, Lara Trump and a Trump-picked RNC chief are running the show, and you're going to see if a Trump-run election is going to be the linchpin in a win, or if it didn't work out in the autopsy. You're going to see if because the people were attacking them on our side earlier on, saying, they're not getting the registrations, they're not getting the votes, they're not doing the door knocking, many things. But I think we're going to find out that they changed things. Many people don't know this, but the Trump people fired and got rid of all the Republicans in charge of Michigan, running the show for Michigan, and they brought in their own people. Our number is 800-288-WBAP. Who's going to win the election and why? And then I want to put in the inflation stuff. Are enough people going to hold their nose and vote for Trump because even though they can't stand him, his economic policies are are going to do it, or are his unfavorables so bad they'll overlook it and go with Kamala. 800-288-WBAP is the number. Lines wide open. Chime in right now. We got time to pop you on right away. 800-288-9227. Now, Wall Street Journal. The economy is glorious if you're wealthy. Well, they're quoting The Economist magazine saying what we have is irrational gloominess in America, and you have New York Times columnist Paul Krugman saying the economy is glorious. Nobody thinks that that's middle class or below. Nobody. The Federal Reserve study. Well, also the journal says that Biden's economy has been glorious for affluent liberals. The well-to-do got wealthier while the rest got poorer. The Federal Reserve study last month, they cite, where they said, quote, higher income households might experience a wealth effect as their homes and investments increase in value, while they also receive more interest and investment income from during periods of higher interest rates, all providing a stimulus for sustained levels of spending. Guess what? Look over to CNN today. Look at this. Americans who bought homes in 2024 were older and richer than ever. I'm not surprised. Second of all, we see CNN, the boogeyman haunting Harris and Biden, that Trump is cashing in on. It's inflation. They close by saying if Trump wins, it'll be large part because of inflation. I agree. That is one of the big ones. Continuing on with this journal opinion column saying the Biden economy is glorious if you're wealthy. The current economic expansion may not be broad-based or durable, and it's certainly not inclusive. That's exactly right. That's the difference between people making 60, 80,000 or 100,000 or something of that nature, and somebody who's making 2, 3, 400,000 or more. Those folks are doing just fine. Many of us, are not. Also, my buddy Eric Erickson writing, some people are making their decisions to vote for Trump based on fundamentals, others on emotions. Those are the ones going with Kamala. Emotions over the fundamentals and the facts. The jobs numbers on Friday, disastrous. 12,000 jobs for the United States of America in 1 month is horrifying. Second of all, the jobs numbers were revised downward by 112,000 less jobs for the past 2 months before this new month. And more illegals, 65,000 illegals came in this past month, and like more illegals than jobs came into this country last month. Isn't that sick? Well, that's the Kamala Harris difference between her and our candidate, and that's why he's going to win tomorrow in a small landslide. You watch. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Coming up next on the Chris Krok Show, the Muslim TikTok influencer so turned off by Kamala's interview, he decides not to publish it or release it. And they wouldn't let him ask about a lot of questions. For example, Gaza. Oh, you don't want to miss this. That's coming up next on the Chris Krok Show. It's really, really bad. And he also talks about what they were talking about, what she said. She said offensive things about Muslims without realizing it was offensive. Oh, gosh, get ready to have some fun on this one, to laugh at this woman and her vapidness. It's insane. It's insane. This made it in the press today. It's a bad thing for her. Bad thing for her. All right, then we're going to get into the betting markets. Are they spot on, or are they something to not pay attention to? Because if they're spot on, Kamala's in some bad trouble. That is coming up next as well on the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288 WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Oh, man, her ship is sinking more and more with every little bit. She's going to lose tomorrow, and I'm also convinced that we're going to win by a small landslide. And trust me, I don't like saying that because my butt's on the line. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I ain't wrong. And I'll let you chime in on that the whole night if you think what you think, who you think's going to win tomorrow. 800-288 WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Here's what I want to share with you, too. This is insane. A Muslim influencer on TikTok is apprehensive when Kamala's campaign calls her and says, we want to have you on. He's got almost 1 million followers. He interviews people on subways in the cities, on subway rails while they're riding the subway. And it was such a bad interview, and she refused over and over again. Her handlers refused to allow him to ask about his most passionate issue, which is Gaza and the Palestinian people and all that stuff. He's clearly against the Kamala Biden handling of it, and he, Israel and everything. So he wanted to ask, and more, he was rejected. And she brought up bacon as a spice, which is offensive to talk about eating bacon for a Muslim, and she had no clue what she was talking about. Let me share a few things here. This is from the New York Times today, by the way. It's bad. The day before the election, here's some commentary from people on Twitter that know what they're talking about here, then I'll give you the specifics. A day before the election, buried in an article profiling a media figure, we learned Harris has given interviews so incompetent and offensive they were never published. She decided to preach greatness of bacon to a Muslim. Another person who first shared this out there was a reporter. The story is so cringe. Kamala filmed an interview for Subway Takes, but it never aired. Why? Her campaign pre-approved the topics, rejecting a question about the Muslim host Rama wanted to ask about Gaza. He interviewed her anyway, but the take she delivered was that bacon is a spice. Offended, he paused the actual interview and asked her to give a different take. On the advice of a staffer, Harris decides to declare her love for anchovies on pizza. He ended the interview there. They made it worse by talking about anchovies. Boring, he said. Now, here's more from the New York Times. Rama also had policy concerns. As a Muslim and an Arab, he objected to the Biden administration's support for Israel's war on Gaza, which has killed more than 41,000 Palestinians. Not true, that's terrorist numbers, including many women and children since Hamas's attack on Israel in October. 1,200 were killed, 200 were kidnapped. In 3 phone calls with Harris staff and the DNC, he said he had proposed raising the conflict with Vice President, perhaps at the end of the episode, but was rejected. Because he's not a professional journalist, Rama, like other content creators who have interviewed presidential candidates, isn't beholden to common editorial standards enforced by traditional news media outlets, including rules against the exclusion of topics as a precondition for an interview. He ultimately agreed to the campaign's terms, reasoning that he could choose not to publish the video if it made him feel uneasy. 2.5 weeks after our initial meeting, I visited him again. Rama, the TikTok guy. He seemed harried and wore a faded t-shirt and relaxed fit jeans. The interview with Harris hadn't gone as planned. What happened was a dispute over Harris' take. Rama said he'd been told that the vice president will be taking a stand against removing one's shoes on airplanes. When they sat down, however, Harris surprised him with a different take. Bacon is a spice. 2 senior campaign officials said this topic had been raised in advance. Rama and his manager dispute this. Rama, who doesn't eat pork for religious reason, was taken aback. I don't know, he says in an unpublished video recording of the interview, his voice rising to an unusually high pitch. Harris elaborates that bits of cooked bacon can be used to enhance a meal like any other seasoning. Think about it. It's pure flavor, she says. Rama asks Harris if he can use beef or turkey and what kinds of dishes would benefit from bacon. He then pauses the interview and tells her he doesn't eat it. He asks if they can do airplanes take instead, but on the advice of a staffer, Harris decides to declare her love for anchovies over pizza. These freaking people are morons! This woman is a child! Let me continue on. Her love of anchovies on pizza, an alternative to the campaign had floated earlier in an email. Rama wraps up the discussion 1 minute later. Well, he says with an awkward laugh, I'm 100% unsure on both of those. Can you freaking believe this? This woman's a moron. I mean, this woman literally is incredibly vapid. This is insane. This should terrify you that this woman could possibly be the president. This from the New York Post. Her botched interview with Muslim influencer celebrating bacon as a spice. She's getting roasted for refusing to talk about the Middle East war with a Muslim influencer and instead spending her time trying to convince him that bacon is a spice. The show routinely features guests, some of whom are celebrities, defending a light, uncommon point of view. The opponent of Harris Biden, this guy's an opponent of her policies on Israel and the war in Gaza, and blah blah blah. But my gosh, holy wow! And I will add this: leftist Axios saying today, Harris no comment strategy on clouds Harris, no comment strategy, how she never gives comments, she never tells you the truth, clouds how she would govern. The no comment candidate, Harris strategy clouds how she'd govern. One thing is clear, Axios, and this is a leftist publication. The one thing is clear about Vice President Harris' intent to stick to her old liberal views or govern with new centrist thinking. She does not want voters to know. She does not want you to know her any positions or how she will govern. This should terrify you, because this woman is a socialist, Marxist, leftist, and she said in CNN, my values haven't changed. What are they? Destroy natural gas and fracking. Pay for transgender and illegals to have sex change surgery. And this is a radical leftist. This is stunning. So does this show you, this interview with the Muslim, he ended up not airing it? Can you believe you have 1 million followers? You could air you and the vice president, maybe the next president, and it's so bad you choose not to air it. Does this show you the kind of vapid fake candidate Kamala is? Does it scare you to think she could actually be our president? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Lines wide open. Want to hear from you. 800-288-WBAP. Also coming up next on the Chris Krok Show, we're going to hit this really hard in a good way. You know, I've got a colleague who cites over and over and over again. Cites, by the way, there's her husband, Doug, who is accused of smacking a woman that he was dating so hard she spun around in a circle and almost fell over. Backed up by 3 separate friends of hers at the time that called her and told her all about it. She was weeping and crying, backed up by all her flight records and all the flight receipts and details. And also he impregnated his child's grade school educator, who was also their nanny. He impregnated her, and then she called 911 shortly thereafter. She lost the baby. She called 911 on him while he was there. Anyway, he's the man to tell us about toxic masculinity, about what a real man is. But up next, why the betting markets are spot on for elections, or why they're not. I will tell you. And for those of you who keep quoting them, like Polymarket and the other ones, I actually have some very good news for you. And did you know? Here's another thing. Can you and I bet in Polymarket? Can you and I make a bet? It's very interesting how it works. I'll tell you all that next, and how reliable it is on the Chris Krok Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227.
Let's vote! Let's get out the 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 vote! Let's win!
Meanwhile, you have Trump tonight. He is excited about this and many other things.
So somebody that's very, very respected asked me to do his show 2 weeks ago, and I said, why not? And to me, it's very big because he's the biggest there is, I guess, in that world by far. Somebody said the biggest beyond anybody in a long time. And his name is Joe Rogan, and he's never done this before. And it just came over the wires that Joe Rogan just endorsed me. Is that good? Thank you, Joe.
Very, very true, and very good news for him, as that guy's the most listened to podcast in the world, which is unbelievable to think about. Well over 70 million combined views with Trump's appearance on that alone. And then also J.D. Vance is probably 20 to 30 million by now, maybe even more. Also, here is, let's see, we'll do Van Jones. He is very worried.
I don't think people understand. Working people sometimes have to choose. Am I going to go to the big, cool concert this week and pay for babysitting for that? Or am I going to try to figure out a way to get to the polls? I don't like these big star-studded events. In fact, probably helped us lose last time. I don't want people going to concerts. I want people knocking on doors. I want people out there fighting for this thing. I'm just nervous. The
people have presented a plate of garbage and no reference to Joe Biden calling us garbage. The people have presented a platter of garbage, and I don't think you're going to eat it. And Oprah was there tonight, just moments ago, introducing Kamala and hugging her. The celebrities are actually hurting her. I do believe that. I said that yesterday, and Van Jones said it all of a sudden, too. And it's true. So tonight you got Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, and Oprah all, saying how incredible she is. And that is some bad news. Bad news. And so that's where we're at. I think that the people of this country who aren't totally the tank for Democrat, and Kamala in this case, and the people of I think what it's going to be is a bunch of people who have not normally voted or have stayed on the sidelines are coming out, and they're coming out and they're saying that Trump is much better to handle the inflation, the economy, and this woman is just vapid. But most importantly, I think they're motivated by what Trump can do for them. And I think that's what's bringing them out. And there's really bad news about early voting, young voting, black voting, and about how many Republicans are registered and have voted early. It's really bad news. And I do think, I've been saying this all night, we're going to see a small landslide. Trump victory tomorrow. And you're going to see 300 delegates or more. And I think you're going to see Arizona will be Trump's, not even a question. Same thing with Georgia and same thing with North Carolina. And I think you're going to see that we're going to win Pennsylvania. If we are blessed, we might end up winning Wisconsin too. I'm not sure, but I don't think we're going to win Michigan. Wisconsin 50-50 is what I'm thinking. Okay, so let us now share the betting markets, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've been always like, yeah, poly market's great, the betting market's great, it looks like we're going to win, but I've always been a skeptic. I've never believed it. But that was until I read this Wall Street Journal article today saying betting markets tend to be reliable with some exceptions, and I'll share the details in a moment. But poly market, guess what else? You cannot bet if you're in America on poly market. Did you know that? You could not bet. So we can't bet in there. I never knew that. You got to be outside of the country. I think it's because you live there. Whatever the rules are, I don't know why. All I know is that you can't. I didn't know that until I read this article. Poly market shows Trump winning at 60% right now, if you round it. At the time of this article with the Wall Street Journal writing it, Betfair had Trump at 63%. Predicted had him at 55%. Here's some highlights from the story. History suggests betting markets have generally been good forecasters of U.S. elections. More often than not, the presidential candidate with the best odds before the election day goes on to take the White House. There have been some exceptions. In 2016, some of them did not. They gave Hillary Clinton a more than 80% chance of defeating Trump. Well, see, that's why they've caught on. You see this? The bettors have caught on. That's why the results are right about him now. And then also many of the biggest betting markets, such as poly market, do not allow wagers by Americans. Fascinating. In the 15 elections between, listen to how accurate poly market is and the others. In the 15 elections between 1884 and 1940, the candidate with the best odds as of mid-October won 11 times. The best odds by mid-October was Trump. He started in the beginning of October of slowly but surely crawling towards victory and trending up. And he won the month of October unequivocally. No one will argue about that. And if they are, they're not paying attention to stuff in detail. So whoever has the best odds mid-October won 11 times between 1884 and 1940. Only once did the unfavored candidate pull off an upset, according to a 2004 study by economists, two economists they cite. Now, also, who is the Trump whale? Who is this person that's coming in and betting $18 million or actually $30 million in poly market or those types of places for a Trump victory? And that bastardizes, supposedly. It affects the what you see on who's going to win and who's not by the money that you're putting down. This guy described himself, and there's no name for him. He said, I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to, you can't use my name. But the Journal reported this. He described himself as a Frenchman who had previously lived in the U.S. and worked as a trader for banks. And, The huge wagers on Polymarket, a prediction market, are not open to Americans, as I said. So that's who he is. He's a Frenchman, and he's not an American. And he's like, I'm not a friend of Trump's or anything. I just really, really feel that strongly about it. So there you go. That's why the 30 million bet was made, which does affect what the ratings are and the odds. Okay. One more important piece that I mentioned a few times tonight in passing, but now we're going to hit it hard. The Jewish vote is always like probably 80 or 85, 15 or 90, 10 for Democrat. Always. Not this case. Their existence, literally, I swear to you, and this is how I think many of our Jewish friends are thinking, but this is how I think. Okay, I don't talk to myself in the third person, but this is how I think. And their existence is absolutely on the line. The state of Israel has half of the entire population of the world's Jews. You can wipe out half the population of the Jews in this country. Hitler's greatest, dream where something happens. You're all excited. I'll stop. I don't mean to get graphic. Would be to wipe out half the population like that. And that's exactly what their enemies all around them want to do. And that's why there's only one person that should be the president of the United States of America right now to take over, and that's Donald J. Trump. And the Israelis know it, and I'm going to tell you how by a stunning poll that's like rocked my world. But there's a reason Israelis and our Jewish friends support and prefer Trump over Harris now. You're going to hear about that written from a great column from one of the editorial writers in the Journal with some great information. All that's coming up next. Oh, and I have to tell you this too. Michael Moore makes a bold prediction, but it might not be what you want to hear. That's okay. All that's next. Michael Moore, the leftist filmmaker. That's coming up next on the Chris Krok Show at 10:45 on News Talk 820 WBL. Plus your call. We got lines wide open. You can chime in right away. We'll get you right on. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Oh, Polymarket, real fast. I have time. I'm sneaking this in. We're fine. Talking to my producer. Arizona on the Polymarket, okay? So Polymarket says that Trump's going to win 60-40, okay, over Kamala. That's the betting market that I cite. Arizona, they have Trump at 78-22. I agree with that assessment. Like you heard me say earlier, stick a fork in it, it's done. He wins Arizona. Same thing with Georgia. As I told you, 68-32. Trump wins in the betting markets. Nevada, this one, I'm not so sure about this. I will not say we're going to win Nevada. I think we might, but I'm not convinced that we're going to win. The googly-eyed people who are, convincing themselves are wrong on that. I think we might win, but I don't think we're going to win. Nevada has 61-39 Trump win. Pennsylvania, and this is it. This is where everything is right here, has 59% Trump, 41% Harris. I agree with those odds. Wisconsin, as I say, that's where it was like a second state to me when I was growing up, and I worked 2 jobs there over the years as a radio guy. Harris 57, Trump 43. I think it's not too far off. We could win it, but I'm not calling it for tomorrow. Michigan, I agree with this, unfortunately. 61-39 Harris. I do agree. Wisconsin is the only one that's possible out of those two, but these betting odds are absolutely correct. They really are. Okay, you can react to that. You can react to my statement unequivocally that we're going to win by a small landslide tomorrow. And we'll know by the end of the night, most likely, or early the next day. 800-288-WBAP is our number. What Michael Moore is calling, you might not want to hear it, as far as the election results. And then Israelis and Jewish folks, why do they support Trump a lot? You'll hear why. And it didn't used to be that way, but you hear why coming up next in the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-9227 is our number. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. I will say it, and I will say it again and again. We are going to win. And that's just it. We're going to win. I'm convinced, y'all. Okay, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Michael Moore predicts that Trump is toast. Well, if he's talking about Michigan, I think he's right. If he's talking about the election, I don't think so. He says the gift that Trump campaign keeps giving us, I don't think they realize, I don't think they're in touch with the majority where Americans are at. The majority of Americans don't want the divisiveness. They don't want violence, a threat of violence. We're okay to disagree, but that's where it ends. I'm talking about the Trump people, the MAGA nation, by what is going to happen on Tuesday. I feel Trump is toast. I feel it more now. I don't want to say it too loudly as our work isn't done. Anyways, I disagree with them. And it's the facts on the ground. It's the demonstrable facts. It's the anemic, very anemic registration numbers. It is the very low turnout by the African American community below thresholds that he must hit, that Kamala must hit to win. It is the polling that 70% of Americans say we are on the wrong track. So, I mean, it goes on and on, but it's just not a good thing. It's the early voting numbers. All right, here is from a column in the Journal. There's a reason Israelis prefer Trump over Harris. Channel 12, the country's leading news station, finds Israelis prefer Trump over Harris. 66% to 17%. It literally is almost exactly 4-to-1 odds, or 4-to-1 margin. 4 Israelis for every one support Trump over Harris. 4-to-1. That is insane. He talked about the strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, the architect of Iran's terror empire, he says. This is from Elliot Kaufman, a journal editorial writer. Goes on by saying, Harris condemned the strike. Can you believe that? She condemned that strike of killing Qasem Soleimani, warning it could lead to a new war in the Middle East. That's you guys! You guys caused war in the Middle East! Oh, look at this wisdom of this poor moron, this poor fool. Continuing on. She says she wants a new nuclear deal with Iran, but so did Biden, and there was none to be had. Biden wanted to hump his leg and do another Obama deal, and Iran literally said no deal, nothing, screw you. There you go. That's the winningness that comes along with this campaign. What else? Harris wants the new nuclear deal. Oh, here we go. Iran pocketed the sanctions relief. They let more money flow into them. Sanctions relief. They stopped doing those sanctions, and they gave them relief, including another $16 billion in unfrozen funds. Marched to the doorstep of nuclear breakout. That's what they did. They marched to the step. They're almost nuclear, fully nuclear with weapons. After Iran's missile attack on October 1st, Biden told Israel, "Don't attack Iran's nuclear program." Remember that? Trump replied, "Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Isn't that where you're supposed to hit, the nuclear program? It's the biggest risk we have, nuclear weapons," Trump said, so we should hit it. He reportedly told Prime Minister Netanyahu, "Do what you have to do." Compare that with the clash over Rafah in May. Biden stalled weapon shipments and threatened to halt even more if Israel invaded Hamas' southern stronghold. Trump remarked, "He just abandoned Israel. I've never seen anything like it." Harris backed by Biden saying about Rafah, remember this? We played this a lot on the air the other night. "I have studied the maps. There's nowhere for those folks to go." She was wrong. They went in there and they killed the architect of the October 7th attack, Yahya Sinwar. In March, Harris led the call for an immediate ceasefire. The U.S. policy hardened Hamas' stance. Sinwar told associates to refuse the hostage deals at the time because Hamas had the upper hand. At the Republican convention, Trump told the world, "We want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price." Harris has never said that to Hamas. In Lebanon, Harris pressed Israel not to escalate even after 11 months of rockets in Israeli towns. If Israel had listened, Hezbollah's leader would still be alive, and Israel's north would never be safe. Are you getting the gist of this? Everything that Kamala and Joe say is wrong for Israel and right for Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, the terrorists.